Hey there, everyone. This is Ari Whitten back with the Energy Blueprint. And today I have a very special guest for you, and we're going to do something pretty unique. This is not something we've kind of delved into before, so I think you're going to love what we have in store for you today. I'm here with Susan Bratton, who is a trusted hot sex advisor to millions of people all over the world. She's sort of like the Dear Abby of sex. And we are going to get into the 6 essentials of energy sex. And I think as you get into this, you'll see the relevance of all these concepts that we're going to talk about to fatigue and to energy enhancement more broadly outside of sex. But this is a really key piece of the puzzle when it comes to your overall energy levels. And it's kind of a taboo thing. And normally it's outside of, my typical conversations that I have, which generally involve geeking out on science. Nutrition and lifestyle and circadian rhythm and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to get into some kind of taboo stuff. If you are sensitive, if you're easily offended, maybe cover your ears at certain points, or maybe this isn't the one for you. But I think that if you are into sex, if you're into having better sex and better relationships, I think you're going to love this podcast. So welcome, Susan. Thank you for joining me.
Well, with that lead up, Ari, I guess I'm going to really have to deliver. I love the idea of energy sex. Thank you so much for deciding to have that conversation with me. People don't talk a lot about the energy of sex. And so it got me I've been thinking about it a lot lately because I'm launching a new program called the Sex Technique Club. It's a new sex technique every month. And I recently did a survey of men and women, and I gave them, 25 different sex technique names. And I said, tell me which ones you like the most, rank your favorites and rank your least favorites. And energy sex was right up in the top 5 for both men and women. So people are really interested in the idea of energy sex, yet they have but then you say, well, what is it? And they're like, I don't know. It just sounds really good.
So perhaps we should start there. What the heck is energy sex?
Well, I think you have to really have a conversation about how it covers so many facets of energy. There's your sexual energy, which we'll talk about. There's sexual meditation, energetic meditative sex. There's sexual healing, which is a form of energy. There's the energy that comes from masturbation. I've got some interesting facts about sexual energy and energy sex and masturbation. And orgasm, it has a huge component to orgasm. And also you can play with your sexual energy in lovemaking. So I want to really hit a little bit of all of those things. And I want to talk about the difference between what is sexual energy and what is energy sex. And energy sex is that last thing I said. It's making love using your turn on and your energy and your desire for each other. You can even do it without touching someone. And I save that for last because it's just so intriguing. And please, Ari, as many times as possible throughout this conversation, do that. Because that's just going to raise the sexual energy.
Perfect.
More and more with all that
yes.
handsome low voice of yours. So what's sexual energy? That's what you asked me.
Yeah.
And what sexual energy is your life force. It's your libido. It's your creativity. It's your passion. It's your zest for life. All of those things, because if you net it out at the end of the day, we are wriggling little worms on a planet here to procreate. That is our thing we are supposed to do as human animals. And our sexual energy is what creates our desire. It creates our will to live. It creates why men go to war and why women make themselves beautiful. And all of these things, all these trappings of civilization come down to even eating. It still is to keep us alive so that we can procreate. And so energy sex, sexual energy is core to who we are as individuals. And when you don't feel creative, when you don't have passion for something, when you're not turned on by life, then you are most likely sick, ill, of poor health in some way. Because if all things were good and you were as healthy as you humanly could be, you'd be horny and turned on. And what's so interesting is that we're born turned on. We're born with sexual desire and sexual energy for life and lust. And we die that way. And it's only what happens in between to tamp it down that makes it go away. So if you don't have sexual energy right now and you want more sexual energy, that is making yourself more healthy and more connected to your sensual self.
Yeah, beautiful. I want to interject something that I think is useful, which is
great.
This idea of sublimation or transfiguration or transmutation. You know, there's lots of different terms for it, but there's this concept that's been around for thousands of years and has emerged in different traditions all over the world, from, you know, Hindu tantric traditions to, you know, things like Qigong and Taoist traditions, to like more of a Western psychological, you know, tradition with people like Freud, and even like it's emerged even in like the personal development movement around like Napoleon Hill, and other people have spoken about it. And it's really this idea that we have this sort of energy in us, which, you know, have different names for, and it's this sort of sexual energy or libido.
Yeah. Chi
or chi. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's there. And depending on how we use it, you know, with regards to sex, or if we transmute it or sublimate it or whatever, or sort of move it up different energy bodies and channels in our system, we can do different things for us. But at the core, it's kind of this idea that this is the energy of life, and that it fuels creativity, not just the act of creation of new life, but, you know, even mental creativity and your passion and work and your relationships, just so many things. And it's kind of a nebulous concept. It's kind of like, you know, encompasses a lot of different stuff. And it's not totally clear in the science how this, you know, we don't have a randomized controlled study saying, you know, this energy equals overcoming fatigue or something to that effect. But this, you know, the fact that this has just been around in so many traditions all over the world for thousands of years, and so many people talk about it. You know, for example, like guys who don't masturbate for a few weeks or something, notice they have all this amazing energy all of a sudden, and they don't have anxiety anymore.
Some do.
Yes. Or you don't have ejaculatory orgasms or whatever. There's some kind of connection there.
Yeah.
And it's not totally clear what it is, but I'm wondering if you can speak on that to some extent.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that on many different levels as we go through each of these 6 essentials for energy sex. So that's what I'm going to be talking about with each one of these facets. So you mentioned masturbation and ejaculatory choice or control. I'm going to definitely get to that as an example. We already talked about life force. There's another thing too that I think is really good. A lot of people want this to not be a woo-woo conversation. They want this to be a measurable scientific conversation. And I'm not the expert in that, but I have a very good book I'd like to recommend for people who want to understand more about things like the auric field, the T field, the L field, all of these, what people now say are more measurable energetic fields of our body that power us. Cindy Dale wrote a really good book called The Subtle Body. So if you're interested in the science behind the measurement of sexual and other kinds of energy of the human body, I'd recommend that book. It's just terrific. And I have some articles on my website about it as well. You can always go to betterlover.com and just look up sexual energy. I've written a lot about it.
Beautiful.
There's another thing I want to talk about too, and that is when we're talking about energy, we're talking about light energy. We're talking about the energy of sound vibrations. We're talking about breath work. These 3 modalities are another way that you can increase your sexual energy. Now, there are some people that don't want more sexual energy. A really common example of people that I know that don't want more sexual energy are the partners of people who are very ill. For example, a 65-year-old man who's still a horn dog. He wakes up with a boner every day, yet his wife is having double mastectomies and she's not in the mood to have any sex at all. And so he has to shut down his sexuality because of his partner. And he loves her and he doesn't resent her in any way about that, but he's really has a lot of sexual desire that masturbation doesn't get that taken care of for him because he's lonely and he misses his wife, that she doesn't really want to touch him because she's not feeling like, oh, affection, and then he'll want sex and I can't give it to, and so it really messes up your sexual energy. So when we're talking about getting more sexual energy, I just want to let you know that if you're one of those people who's either ill yourself, and this illness can be emotional, physical, and they're always a combination anyway. But if you are that kind of person who's like, how can I turn off my sexual energy? I'm not here to help you with that. I'm just here to be sensitive to it. I'm here to help you amp up the power. Because that's what I do. I help people get more sexual energy, cultivate their sexual energy, cultivate their turn on, feel into the power that comes from being great in bed, having awesome sex, and having incredible, explosive, orgasmic pleasure, connecting in rapture to another person. That's what I'm really here to talk about today.
I love it. So
me too.
So where does sexual energy come from? Like, how do you think about it? How can we leverage it? How do you increase it?
Well, you increase it through your fantasy. You think about sexy things. You increase it through taking care of your body and feeling good in your body, through appreciating all the marvelous things that your body can do. You do it by clearing blocks that have settled into your enteric nervous system, wherever they may be in your body. If there's something holding you back from fully feeling everything in sex, you remove your emotional blocks to completely connecting with another person. You become aware of where you're getting stuck and you look for solutions that help you unstick it. We'll be talking a little bit about sexual healing, and we'll talk about goddess massage and the P spot and some things like that that really help clear that energy. So fantasy is great. Thinking about things that turn you on, get you turned on. Making sure that your hormones are in good shape, that you're working at optimal hormone levels or doing what you can to support your hormone system. You're breathing deeply when you're making love. I was talking to a girlfriend of mine the other night, and she said that she had such an intense orgasm that she broke a blood vessel under her eye. And I said, my God, this is not the right way to have an orgasm, my girl. A lot of women, especially when they are trying to have an orgasm, they're clenching down, they're holding their breath, they're like, trying to come. And actually, what I tell people who do that is that it's the opposite that makes you come better. It's the opening, thinking about your yoni, which is your vulva or your vagina. It's a Sanskrit word. It's a sweet word. Opening your yoni like a lotus flower. Opening yourself to your pleasure. Instead of trying to go get it, you let it come out of you. Your desire is inside you right now. All you need is within you now. It's all there. And if you can't connect to it, it's because it's being covered up by things that happened to you in the past. My gosh, Ari, I mean, we have body shame, we have sexual shame. There's so much sexual abuse. There's religious repression. There's societal repression. There's the cultural repression that comes from man to woman, woman to man, whatever it might be. And so we have to overcome all those things. So understanding that you're not broken. Your channel's not open to feeling and opening to your pleasure. And you would be surprised at how quickly you can open yourself to more pleasure by just bringing that feeling through your body and looking your lover in their eyes and connecting souls in that way and feeling yourself. So I'll get into even more techniques as we have that conversation. But those are some of the very basics: are opening, breathing, looking, connecting, feeling, and moving everything.
Nice. Okay. So sexual meditation.
Yeah.
that was one of the 6 keys.
Yes.
So what is that? Is it like orgasmic meditation? Are you kind of meditating with the feeling of an orgasm, or I guess I should let you explain it.
That's okay. I like your guesses. And yes and no. So let's see. I just want to check my notes because I like to be very thorough about the things that I want to tell you. So one of the things is that orgasm releases your tension. So an orgasm reboots your nervous system, just like rebooting your computer when it gets slow and grindy and noisy. And what happens is that you have a lot of tension, and you tend to, what Wilhelm Reich would have called, armor yourself. You get stiff. And for a lot of men, one of the reasons they're quick ejaculators is that they're actually tight asses. You know, they're so used to like going out and like kicking butt and, you know, doing all this stuff. And then when they go to make love to their woman, they're just like so tight. You know, they've got tight psoas muscles, and they're not rocking their pelvis. They're not moving and dancing and shucking and jiving. And so they come too fast. And what you really want to think about with your sexuality is letting yourself just completely reset from your sexuality. And what you want is this level of mindlessness with your lover. You want to push everything out of your head that you're thinking about, and you want to remember that you're just with that person. And you want to feel the feelings. You want to feel the connection. You want to play off of each other. And when you're truly releasing everything, not worrying about what you look like or how it's going or any of those things, just really becoming unattached to any outcome sexually, except being in the moment, completely present with your partner, that kind of lovemaking is a kind of meditative state. The same state that you're in for meditation, which is called a theta state, a theta brainwave state, is exactly the same as when you're in passionate lovemaking. So what you're doing when you're making love, if you're fully present and completely surrendered to the pleasure you're co-creating in the moment, that interplay, you are in a sexual meditation with your partner. Now, you can take that further through an expanded orgasm practice. And this can be done to a man or to a woman. And it's essentially giving and receiving, where I'll give you the example of an expanded orgasm practice that my husband and I have done for over 12 years. And it's essentially a clitoral stroking technique. And it allows, in the case of my husband and I, and this can be done, a man can do this to a woman can do this to a man, women can do this to each other, men can do this to each other. I'm just using a man-woman construct in this case. It's a gender everything inclusive practice. In this case, my husband is leading me, and I am lying there, and he is stroking my clitoris with his fingers in a certain stroke pattern that keeps my clitoris from getting worn out and overstimulated and therefore not wanting touch. It's such a light, delicate stroke technique that he can take me, and I don't do anything. He takes over my nervous system. We become conjoined in our trance state. I'm feeling him, he's feeling me, I'm riding his ride, he's stroking me into a series of orgasms that stack and get better and better and better over time. They get longer, they get more intense. He takes me on this orgasmic journey, and we are in a co-creative, conjoined, theta, mindless, sexual, meditative trance state together. And you can do that with a man by stroking his penis so that he gets right up to that edge of orgasmic pleasure. Now, many men will find that they have to ejaculate, but you can actually train yourself to have full body energy orgasms as a man that feel as good as the ejaculatory orgasm you're used to as a guy that's been, promulgated in our culture as the standard. It's not. It's just what you learned. There's way more pleasure to be had as a man as well. And so you can actually have these meditative sexual energy states together.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. And this is something I actually have never spoken about personally, but I've experienced what you're talking about, both of the things you've talked about, and And so I can verify that both of those things are accurate.
Yeah, I'll give you a copy of our Expand Her Orgasm Tonight program. That's the one where we teach the clitoral stroking techniques and all the things that a couple needs to learn to get into that trance state together, so you can find her spot, so you can do the strokes that take her up and up and up. And in a minute, I'm also going to talk about parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system and toggling that for expanded orgasmic pleasure.
Awesome. I'm sure she'll be very happy about that.
Yeah, you bet. It's a fantastic practice for couples. It adds to the requirement that, if you're going to have sex, you always have intercourse. It's nice to have non-penetrative sexual pleasuring as a couple, because then it kind of takes the pressure off. Because for women, penetration's a lot to ask sometimes.
Okay. So sexual healing.
Yeah.
I guess we're going to go right down this list of the 6 essentials. So talk to me about sexual healing. What is that? And how does sexual energy play into that?
Well, you know how when you feel sad feelings, when you have traumas, they get installed in your body and your emotional body and your enteric nervous system at a cellular level. And for women and men, for women, we hold a lot of it in our womb and in our G area, in all of that tissue. And for men hold it a lot in their prostate and in their perineal sponge area. And so one of the best things that you can do is give your lover a lot of genital massage, internal genital massage, stroking, kneading, just smoothing the tissue, cultivating engorgement, which is blood flow in the tissue. That helps release any stuck emotions. A lot of times when a woman first gets with a lover who can really give her intense orgasms, she'll cry, she'll cackle like a crazy lunatic, she'll make funny sounds like, cats wailing at the night. All these things come out, these emotional releases come out when she's stimulated in her genitals. Same with a man. When you stroke his prostate, a lot of times there's a major emotional release that'll happen for a guy. Plus, of course, it's a really good explosive orgasmic experience too. So the goddess massage, the P-spot massage, these are really good ways to move emotional energy out of our bodies to free us up so that our orgasms can bubble up out of us. The other thing that's really good...
Sorry, let me interrupt.
Yeah.
So I think you said P-spot?
Yeah, P-spot, your prostate.
P-spot.
For a man, they call that the P-spot, like the girl has the G-spot for her Grafenberg spot, which is, by the way, it's not a spot. I actually call it a G area. It's actually one of the pieces of erectile tissue in a woman's vulva. She's got the urethral sponge at the top of the canal inside her vaginal canal, and she's got the perineal sponge that is between her rectum and her vaginal canal, and both of those are erectile tissue, as is her clitoral structure, which of course is not just the nub you see on the outside. It's a shaft. It's her little penis. It can get a hard on. It has 2 legs that go inside that you can stroke from up inside her vaginal canal, as well as the vestibular bulbs, which are those little punching bags. You might have seen 3D renderings of what a clitoral system looks like on the internet. Those are also erectile tissue. So the big takeaway about this is that all that tissue is holding emotion. And the more that you stimulate it, the more that emotion can flow out of you and heal the traumas of your past. And over time, those things stop coming out, and you kind of, your boat right sizes again, and you don't have to worry that you're going to cry every time you come. It goes, and sometimes it'll well up if you've had traumatic events and you can release again. But the goddess massages are absolutely wonderful for women especially. So I would say that that's a big part of sexual healing, are those 2 things.
Yeah.
But for men, I do want to talk about the 2. For men, and I didn't finish the other point, which was engorgement. Women have as much erectile tissue up inside their clitoris and vulva as men do in their penises. And really, for lovers to get into these expanded states, it's very important to get all the blood flow coming to all that tissue. You wouldn't want to make love with a flaccid penis, so you shouldn't expect your woman to make love with a flaccid vulva.
Yeah.
I know that sounds kind of nerdy, but you're a science dude like I am, and I just like explaining how things work. And for men on sexual healing, there's shame. I mean, oh my God, Ari, you know, I've been working with men for a decade all over the world, from little remote islands where they still live in huts, but they somehow get internet, to, you know, the most sophisticated guys on the planet who fly jets around. They just take jets wherever they go. I mean, this is my range of men that I work with, and women too. But with men, what I'm shocked about is how much shame men have about their desire, about that sexual energy that they have. Men have so much sexual energy, and so do women. We tamp it down really early on women so they don't feel so much of the pain of the loss as men do. But men have a terrible lot of shame about their desire, which is a shame. They also have a lot of penile atrophy, and they, you know, if they don't get to make love a lot, their penis actually atrophies. If you don't use a muscle, it's use it or lose it. It's muscular tissue. And they also break their penises. They break their penises with cock rings. They break their penises with cowgirl style wild women riding on them and not being careful enough.
So break your penis?
Well, you know, they can get crimps in the corpus cavernosum.
Really?
And
wow.
Yes.
I always thought that was like a metaphorical thing.
It's a for realsy thing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So what's great is that engorgement and these massages and the extended orgasm dates and the stroking of the buried shaft of the penis in the body, all the way up through the glands on the top, at the top of the end, that all of that, working with that, suckling it with your mouth as a partner with a man who has atrophied penis, it expands all that tissue and brings all that engorgement back. And you can add girth, length, firmness, ability to get hard and stay hard to any man's penis with just a bit of love and attention.
Good.
Like, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, I'm gonna like maybe run some paid advertising to this podcast and to spread that message around.
Good. Exactly. So those are a lot of the things that you can do with sexual healing. Everything from feeling where you're blocked and just like moving your body around to stroking the tissue and getting those emotions out. Beautiful.
So masturbation.
Yes.
That is number 4.
Yeah,
you're for it.
I'm for it.
Good. I'm sure there will be lots of people celebrating that and thanking God that you're not going to tell them not to do it anymore.
I'm going to tell you to do it more. Okay. I think the more you masturbate, I mean, obviously there's a limit, you know, you gotta go to work and stuff, right? I mean, you know, there are people who masturbate way too much. And that's actually one of the issues, is that men now are masturbating to pornography so much that they've gotten dopamine addictions to it, and they can't get hard in front of real women. And that's just such a shame. And guys go through literally a withdrawal like off of a narcotic withdrawal from not watching porn. They call that NoFap, N-O-F-A-P. You can Google that and learn more if you suspect you might be one of those people who's been raised on porn and didn't realize that it's been ruining your sexual potential and your sexual energy. Masturbation, there are some really great things about it. One I want to talk about with regard to energy is vibration. So we know that vibration, sound energy, for example, is wonderful, especially women, but a lot of guys like vibration of their genitals. I actually have a Sonic Life whole body vibration system. It's a $10,000 unit with a big platform 2 people can stand on that sends vibrations all the way up my whole body. And I can feel it in my yoni. I can feel it in my breasts. I can feel it in my fingers, everywhere. It just moves through your system. A lot of people like to be rocked. Rocking is really a good sexual energy for turn on. Vibration, vibrators are very good. So those kinds of things that make you feel good, that raise your sexual energy, vibration is one of them. And then breathing while you're doing it, really circulating that turn on, that expands your ability to feel a lot of pleasure, which is what I'm here for.
I'm curious about the device you're talking about. Is it
Yeah.
like a sound wave,
It
or is
is.
it like
It's
mechanical
speakers.
vibration?
It's not mechanical. It's sonic vibration. It's called the Sonic Life. It's an amazing piece of equipment.
Interesting. I've never heard of
Yeah.
that.
You'll have to check it out. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like it better than the mechanical. I like the sound waves. If you've ever had someone play a didgeridoo and aim it at your genitals, that's another kind of sound healing. You can feel that harmonic resonance in your tissue. And so you're getting things moving again with vibration. Another thing that is sexual energy with regard to masturbation is edging. And we're going to lead into energy orgasms. And one of the ways that you become a multi-orgasmic man, where you begin to separate your ejaculation from your orgasm. You know, those two things aren't connected. You do not need to ejaculate to have an orgasm. And you don't, and when you ejaculate, you don't necessarily have an orgasm. They're just two systems that guys were like, okay, these things go together, so this is how I'm supposed to do it. It's not actually true. So you can begin to have full body orgasms. And one of the techniques that we teach in a program I have called Multi-Orgasmic Lover for Men, which I'll also give you, is something called the me breath, which essentially is a way of breathing while you're squeezing your I always have to say this very slowly, pubococcygeus muscle, your PC muscle, in a certain way while you're moving your sexual energy up your body so that it doesn't come out your penis before you want it to. So you have to be aware of your sexual arousal levels before you do this me breath technique to give yourself non-ejaculatory, full body orgasmic pleasure. And then of course you can come at the end when you want to, but you can have a whole bunch of full body orgasms before you ejaculate and the party's over. And the way you start is by understanding your sexual energy level. And the most common thing that people call this is edging, where a guy will masturbate and he will take himself to a 5 in turn on. He'll take himself to a 6 and then he'll back down. He'll take himself to a 7 and then he'll back off. He'll take himself to an 8 and he'll back off. And then he starts to learn the me breath technique, and he can incorporate that in so that he can take his arousal down without stopping the stimulation. He can actually do the squeeze and the breathe. And there's a pelvic relaxation piece too. There's 3 pieces to the technique. So you can do it while you're making love. You can practice while you're masturbating, and then you can do it while you're making love. So it feels effortless because you're actually learning it while you're rocking your pelvis a certain way, because that's the relaxation you need, not to come too fast. Mm. And so you're managing your arousal level, which is your sexual energy. You become very aware of what's an 8 for you. You know, should you be doing the me breath when you're at a 6 or a 7, so you don't get to an 8 before you start to feel like you're going to go over the edge and have an ejaculation and then the party's over, as I said. Mm-hmm. So these kinds of things are very interesting with regard to masturbation. Vibration, edging, knowing your arousal levels, starting to run your turn on up into your body. And then if you read, another good book is Taoist Sexual Meditation by Bruce Francis. He has done a fantastic job cataloging a lot of Taoist and Qigong sexual meditation techniques, as well as the energy cycling. So I talked about how a guy is bringing the energy, he's moving it from his penis and up into his body. He's moving it into his belly, and then he's learning to move it to his heart so he can have heart-connected lovemaking. So his penis and his heart are connected to your yoni and your heart, right? So then you start getting that connection happening. And then he can move it right out the top of his head. He can actually have these braingasms where he just feels like he sees God with these full body orgasms. And that is understanding how to cycle and move that sexual energy in your own body. Women, of course, can do the same thing. Heartgasms are easier for women, partly, I believe, because our vagus nerve goes all the way to our genitals, but it stops in the abdomen for men. So it's men have to work a little harder to connect their genitals to their heart. They have to practice it. They have to feel the energy and really put their attention on it. Where for women, they're starting out a little bit more heart connected in their genitals. Generally, everybody's different, Ari. I mean, everybody is so different.
Yeah. And I have to say, I would probably be actually quite skeptical of some of the stuff you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I was very into Qigong and Taoist yoga
Yeah.
in my early 20s. So I actually
Great.
learned it when I was about 21 years old and started.
Great.
So it's been well over a decade that I've been playing with some of these
Techniques.
concepts and techniques. Thank you.
Yeah. Moving your energy.
Yeah.
Great.
And it works. And
Yes.
so I think for the males listening right now that are like, this is a bunch of bullshit, you can't do that. They can't comprehend the idea that you could have an orgasm without ejaculation, or that, you could do things with that internal subtle energy and kind of move it to different places in your body and experience different things from doing that. But it's all real. This isn't, like I said at the beginning, this is kind of outside of the realm of like randomized controlled trials where we have like lots of scientific data measuring all these things. Mm-hmm. But, there's been millions of people, including myself,
for eons, for centuries and centuries,
that have been experiencing these things and talking about them. And I think they're unquestionably real. Yeah.
Well, and as I said, the book by Cindy Dale, The Subtle Body, Subtle Energy Body, and the book by Franson, the Taoist Sexual Meditation book, they do a lot of cataloging of trials, research, the science behind how all of these things work.
Yeah, I like how you put your glasses back on just before before the geek speak.
Well, I did that because I knew you were going to ask me the next question, and I want to make sure that I answer all the things I wanted to say.
Yeah, for sure. I thought you have to put the glasses back on every time you start talking about sciencey stuff and measurement. You're like, okay, I'm going into this mode now. So where are we? We've talked about actually one more thing on the subject of masturbation.
Yes.
So you mentioned briefly about porn,
right?
And the no fap thing.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with that? So can you just kind of distinguish for me? You're pro masturbation in general, but not pro porn.
Well, men love porn. They love to masturbate to porn. What I would say is, if you're going to masturbate to porn, try to it's kind of like consuming internet junk food. Spend as much time creating things as you do consuming things. In masturbation, spend as much time fantasizing in your own mind as looking at porn. Try to keep a balance there so you can still get hard, stay hard, and manage your arousal levels yourself without the need of a third-party crutch, which is basically $1 billion business just there to make money off of you. So, be cognizant, be conscious, be aware that you're a pawn in the world of porn.
Okay.
They're using you.
So if you're masturbating to porn, I guess you're it's a super stimuli in the brain.
Yes.
And it's kind of overstimulating those pleasure
dopamine dumps. Yeah.
So that you're kind of, I guess, you're desensitizing the system.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of men deal with oversensitivity, and a lot of men deal with desensitization, and they have to come back to center. Yeah, and men deal with atrophy, they deal with shame. That premature ejaculation, stamina, is the number one issue men deal with. It's very difficult because the other problem is that, of course, with women, 55, it's the orgasm gap in penetrative sex, in lovemaking, where it's very easy for a man to come 95% of the time or more. He can have an orgasm from intercourse, where maybe half the time a woman might be able to. And so that's one of the things I spend a lot of time on, is helping lovers bridge the orgasm gap so that they both have wonderful pleasure during lovemaking, so they both want to have it all the time, instead of the guy having to talk the woman into it because she's not having great orgasms from it.
Yeah.
But going back to the porn and the dopamine addiction, I want to talk very, very tiny little bit about post-coital dysphoria, which is another thing that happens for some guys. I think one of the reasons why the Taoist semen retention practices continue to live on is that if you think about all humans along a curve, there are some guys for whom, when they ejaculate, they lose energy. It's like a dopamine dump for them, and they suffer from it. They're have brain fog, they're lethargic. Other men, it's a great release for them. They rest for a minute and then they just feel great and they're like less agitated. Other men who ejaculate, they feel more agitated or more depressed. They actually, a lot of men and women cry after sex. And so that's why I think the Taoist practice of semen retention can be good for some men. It keeps their energy, their chi inside them. And kareza, which is a practice of making love without having any ejaculatory experiences, can also be good for some people. Some people find that works for them. So everybody's so different. You really have to honor what's right for you.
Okay, so I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I meant to ask you that and then I spaced until you brought it up just now. But so this concept around semen retention and,
Yes.
and not ejaculating.
Yes.
I know, I mean, there's so many different takes on that.
Yes.
And then there's also science on it. So there's kind of this intersection between, I guess, more spiritual or sexual energy philosophies.
Yeah.
And then now we have this intersection with studies, for example, on, trying to figure out what's the optimal ejaculation frequency for men for like prostate health and risk of prostate cancer and so on. There isn't a lot of data, but there's there's some in there. So I'm just wondering, so if men are having non-ejaculatory orgasms, do you have any recommendations around frequency of when they should ejaculate? So should they not ejaculate in every sexual session with their partner or every masturbation session? Or, I guess where's the
sweet spot?
Yeah.
Yeah. It really depends on whether you're one of those guys who gets depleted when you ejaculate or you feel great when you ejaculate. I think the idea, any man along that spectrum would do well to learn how to have full body energy orgasms in addition to ejaculatory orgasms, so everyone wins. And for the guys that couldn't imagine having sex without ejaculating, I'm not suggesting that they do. What I'm suggesting that they do is they learn how to manage their arousal levels, use the me breath technique to last as long as she wants them to, while having incredible full body orgasms that trigger her orgasms. And so this is really where we go into this idea of energy orgasms and closing the orgasm gap, where we call it the tuning fork technique. Hang on. I have my tuning forks. Let me get them. They're really cute. So these are my tuning forks. And the way that it works is if I hit this one against something and I get it near this one, now this one is ringing too. The idea is that the sound vibrations, the vibrations that come from this one, let this one pick up that sound. And that's how lovemaking is. We are resonant beings. That's why vibrations feel good, why sound healing is great, why we like breath and movement, and why we like it when our guy goes, Do that one more time, Ari. I want to hear it. I love that. Woo! So the idea is that when you're with your lover and you're trying to get more sexual energy, when you're tuned into her and you're totally present and you're having male multiple orgasms, when you're like, oh, baby, this is so good. And she knows she's making you feel that good, that you feel that good when you're with her, it's going to trigger her orgasm. She's going to come because you're coming. So if you wait until the final ejaculatory orgasm to have that orgasm, when you could be coming throughout your lovemaking time, you're just leaving a lot of incredible sexual pleasure on the table. And so that's why I love these tuning forks, is they really get you understanding those mirror neurons and how we resonate and vibe off each other. If you're able to control your ejaculation, if you have ejaculatory choice, you can come when you want to using the me breath technique. And so you decide that you want to have a whole bunch of orgasms, you're going to be triggering. I mean, after the first or the second or the third one you have, she's going to be coming. She needs you. She needs to see you go first as the man and have all that pleasure with her. And then that just like opens her up to incredible orgasmic abundance. And then at the end, you guys can have one simultaneous, fabulous orgasm at the end where the guy ejaculates and you can take a little nap and you can give her a little hug and you can bounce out of bed. And if you're the kind of guy that doesn't want to come, don't come. You can still have amazing sex with energy sex.
Beautiful. So actually one quick question on that final point. So if a man doesn't ejaculate during sex, I'm curious how women perceive that. And I think some women perceive it differently. In my experience, some women who have never who are unfamiliar with the concept that a man can have an orgasm without ejaculation, maybe get weirded out by it, or
they feel like they didn't do their job.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also we like that semen cocktail. You give us an injection of all kinds of wonderful, potent hormones and things that, you know, make a woman feel very good, calm us down, connect us to you. And so, in some cases, it's kind of a bummer not to have that experience. But also you'd be surprised that the flip side is that if your partner is like, you know, ambivalent as to whether he ejaculates every time he's with you or not, when he's like, I'm fine to come or not, it's no big deal. Don't feel the pressure to do it. I'll come if it's my time, and I won't if it's not. Then all of a sudden she has the ability to say, okay, I'm done. I'm not feeling it. Can we stop? And he'll be like, oh, that's totally fine, babe. If you're done, you're done. And so instead of it being this thing where she kind of has to wait it out till he finally comes like, hey, finish it up. You know, there's a lot of that problem in the long-term monogamous sex bedrooms of the universe too. So I think ultimately ejaculatory choice and male multiple orgasm are the way to go for all men who want to be in the top 1% of lovers, because then you have every option available to you instead of only being stuck with one thing.
Yeah. Awesome. So we've covered energy orgasms.
Yes.
We've covered masturbation. We've covered sexual healing. We've covered sexual meditation.
Yeah.
We've covered sexual energy.
We're doing well, Ari.
We're kicking ass.
We're doing a good job together.
So let's talk about lovemaking.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So the very first thing that I want to talk to you about, and this is an energy sex technique. Do you remember when you really, really were turned on by someone and you just felt like, and she could feel it too? You remember that?
Of course.
Well, that is sexual energy. That's that turn on, desire, that lust, that ardor, that passion, that want for someone. And you can actually channel that energy out your penis and into her body. You can think about your penis as being like a beam of sensual light that you're penetrating her with. And with a little practice, she'll be able to feel when you're doing it, even if you don't tell her that you are. One of the things that I really like about this is that you can be sitting across the table from each other out at dinner, and you can be energetically making the hottest, naughtiest, passionate love to her. And she'll just be like, baby, cut it out. Come on. It's too much. Stop it. It's too much. You know, you'll get her wiggling in her seat because she can feel it. So that's an area of sexual energy or energy sex that I think is very hot, is the no touch kind of sex that is possible. The other kind of energy sex that I think is the best energy sex is the I'm feeling you, feeling me, you're feeling me, feeling you sex. This is a technique that Dr. Patty Taylor, who I also published, she's the one that created Expand Her Orgasm Tonight for me, to teach couples how to have this clitoral stroking and penis stroking practice of expanded orgasmic pleasure. She has a free ebook called Touch for Rapture, and she teaches you how to touch, how to really feel a person, and how to make sure that they can feel you feeling them. What you want to do is you want to set up that energetic loop, that connection where, just like you were kind of energetically making love to her across the table, now she can feel you feeling her. And not only that, but you're touching her for your pleasure. You're not touching her to do her. This is a big thing. It's being present with your lover and touching her for your pleasure, having her touch you for her pleasure. For example, a lot of women are a little reticent to go down on a guy. And I think the biggest reason that they are is that they simply don't know what to do. They feel like there are probably some techniques that are required that are going to, take him over the edge. And when you roll back from that and you say, it doesn't matter if he comes or not because he has ejaculatory choice. He can come whenever he wants to. That's nothing you need to worry about. You just take your pleasure with him. You take your pleasure by enjoying his penis with your mouth, your tongue, and your lips. I'm just using this as an example, where you just enjoy the feeling of it. You use his tool for your pleasure. And when you start to think about things in that frame and say, see what it takes to turn yourself on by just playing with this penis, with your hands, with your mouth, whatever, with both, whatever you want to do. All of a sudden, you're getting a level of sexual energy starts to happen that doesn't happen when you're in the frame of mind of, I'll do you and you do me and we'll both get off. Because there's 3 kinds of sex. There's the role play. And that's what a lot of people do. They do what they think they're supposed to be doing. They might have seen something on porn. This is what a lot of women are telling me now, that the guys are treating them like they're porn stars, and it sickens them. They want to be romanced and made love to. They want passionate lovemaking. And men equally are saying to me, why are women acting like porn stars? Why can't they just connect with me? Why can't they, why are they doing what they're doing? Why can't they just kiss me and deeply and really be affectionate and warm? And, so there's that role play thing. It's great when you're really good lovers and then you add role play. It's not great when you start out in role play. Mm-hmm. The second thing is what most people do. And that is, we're going to rub our genitals together. It's friction. I'm going to get off on you. You're going to get off on me. We're going to do the things that get us off and we're going to be done. And the third kind of lovemaking is that conjoined trance state, that orgasmic sexual connection to each other in real time, that interplay of lovers, where not only are you connecting to each other, but you can connect to spirit, to God, to source, to Gaia, to all living and other things, whatever you want to call that. That's when people talk about rapturous sex, what they talk about is losing yourselves so completely, the ego goes away and you're just playing off your pleasure together and you're not doing anything to each other. You are taking your pleasure, feeling your pleasure, and you're just being in pleasure. And so I think that is the kind of energetic lovemaking that we all are dying to have. And to me, that's what I do for a living. I have the map to that territory. That's the place I play. And those are the techniques that I like to teach. It's, how do I get there? I want that. That's what I want. And I'll tell you, that's the place to go.
Yeah, for sure. I just to add a couple personal thoughts. You reminded me of a book that I read, probably over 10 years ago.
Okay.
And it's a very obscure book. I think is not for sale publicly anymore anywhere. It was by a guy named Paul something, who was in the kind of dating community.
Was it Paul Johansson? And it was like almost like a big tome about sex? No.
Okay. So it's related to that concept that you were talking about of the no-touch lovemaking. And this is a little kind of out there of a concept. And the guy's name, I think was it Orgasm on Command or Erotic Hypnosis? Was it Mark Cunningham or Lloyd Lester? Because I know who Mark Cunningham is, but no, it wasn't those guys. Okay. So it was this guy has a site or a brand called Omega Male or something to that effect. Okay. And he wrote this book, very unique book called Get Your Send On. Huh. And it was based on, this guy was an MD, so he was kind of very science-based. And it was based on the work of this one researcher named Paul Ekman, who...
Oh, yeah, I know Paul. Facial action coding system.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
like micro
Darwin's work.
expressions.
Yeah.
So like these micro expressions of the face.
Yeah. Lie to Me was the Fox TV show they built off that.
Right.
Yeah.
So this guy, Paul, whatever his last name is.
Paul Ekman. Oh, Paul, the other Paul.
Yes. The other Paul wrote this book called Get Your Send On, based on these micro expressions of the face. And he started to he almost did like a coding of all of these scenes from movies and famous actors. So like Brad Pitt, and George Clooney, and, all these different actors, and like capturing scenes of their faces in movies when they're flirting with women.
Nice.
And what he developed was this kind of idea that your thoughts as a man, what you're thinking in your head, is communicated through very subtle expressions, very subtle changes in the micro expressions of your face. And women can pick up on that.
Oh, yes, we can.
Unconsciously. It's not that they look at it and they think, oh, that little, tweak of the eyes, or the, the wrinkles of the eyes, or the next to the mouth, or whatever.
Smile or whatever. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not conscious.
Yeah.
But basically, this idea that he developed was, if you think dirty or flirtatious thoughts, women pick up on that, and they're attracted to it. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine, depending on how the man looks, maybe if he looks kind of creepy, this wouldn't work very well. But in my experience, it's true. I mean, this is, like I said, this is an out there scientific concept. It may not be like any sort of psychic thing going on. It may just purely be the micro expressions of your face. But I think that women are extremely attuned to picking up on a man's vibrations and picking up on what he's thinking and feeling, I think on a way deeper level than most men can comprehend. And, after I read that book, I spent like 6 months or a year playing with that concept. And I found it just to be kind of an amazing thing to see how well women actually picked up on those things.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated with that concept of the no touch lovemaking, just kind of the way the man feels, how it can make the woman feel, kind of like the tuning forks. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that too.
So beautiful. Yeah, I think this has been awesome stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone probably realizes that if they integrate a little bit more awesome sex and energy orgasms into their life, that there'll probably be more energetic, more vital, passionate people in general, and happier people probably too.
Definitely. Yeah. One of the things that I think people struggle with is getting enough information, getting enough feedback in the bedroom with their partner. Sometimes women are afraid, it's not always women, but it's most common that women are afraid to give men feedback. They're afraid to hurt their ego. Or they feel like, well, I don't know what I want. I just know this isn't it. And so they shut down. Because remember, women generally don't watch a lot of porn. And so they don't really know what's possible sexually. They're watching movies and things like that. But most of the media depicts sex in such lame ways. There's no, like, wow, I didn't know we could do that, So one of the things that I put together recently was something called the Sexual Soulmate Pact. It's a technique for partners. And it's an agreement between lovers that allows you to open up the lines of communication really, really easily. And I have that as a gift for your viewers and listeners, your fans and followers.
Awesome.
It's from my newest book, Sexual Soulmates, which has just hit Amazon #1 bestseller. So I'm happy about that.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. It takes a lot of work to get there. Only took me over a decade. But it takes a lot. Sexuality is a vast space, as is what you do, helping people build their energy with so many variables and inputs, and all of us being so different, and our cultures and everything. I mean, there's just a deep and wide area. But in working with thousands of people over a decade, as I said, from all over the world, I really tested out a lot of techniques and strategies. And what I put in Sexual Soulmates were what I thought are the 6 essentials to connected sex. What is it that gets you? What's the map to that territory I was talking about, that where the world falls away and you're just deeply satisfied and connected and you feel like you've come home through your lover? And the soulmate pact is a foundation to getting there. It's kind of like the wheels of the bus. You got to have an agreement for feedback. And so I have that for you. I also
Awesome.
have, yeah.
And I just want to add for everyone listening, I'll put the link to get that in the show notes for this podcast episode, which you can get at theenergyblueprint.com/sexual energy.
Excellent. I like that URL, Ari. Yeah, so the Soulmate Pact, I give you the Sexual Soulmate Pact itself in a downloadable book, and then I give you 3 videos that explain the pact. There's 2 sides to the agreement. And then I talk about Stacy, who had really hot hotel sex, 48 hours worth of the hottest hotel sex ever, using the Sexual Soulmate Pact with a new boyfriend. So I think that's a really good gift for people who want to take that very first step in having more intimate connection. The second thing,
just real quick, was that 48 hours in a row? Did she die of dehydration?
No, it was just it was just a weekend lovemaking experience she had with her new boyfriend, David. And she told me all about it. And she was like, you know what made it great? You know what made it the most incredible? I did the Sexual Soulmate Pact with him like almost right away. And he was like, okay, baby, I'll do it. And she was like, it was so great how he just did it every time. And I got so comfortable with him so fast. Nice. So that's number 1. Number 2, I have 2 presents for you. And that is, the other one is called How to Be Instantly Hotter and Sexier. It's for men and women, single and married. Both of these things are. And it's the 3 things that you can do to instantly amplify your sexual desirability and your sexual desire. And so I'll give you that as well. And Ari will give you a link to both. And they're with my compliments. I mean, nice. I just give and give and give because I got plenty of programs people can buy. I'm in no hurry. You just take your time. I'm here when you need me. I got another 50 years of life left in me, and I would rather be doing nothing than helping people have hot sex. So take the 3 gifts and we'll go from there.
Awesome. I love it. And again, you can get that at all these links for all of the gifts Susan's going to give you at the link for the podcast here for the show notes, theenergyblueprint.com/sexual energy.
I love that.
This has been awesome. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. And, you know, you just packed so much content in and made it like tactical and got into a lot of specifics, which I really appreciate. And I know everyone listening appreciates. Yeah. And it was just such a pleasure chatting with you.
I thoroughly enjoy you, and I think you're just absolutely terrific, and it was a joy to spend time with you, Ari. I'm the lucky one. Thank you for giving me your platform to connect with more people to help them have more passion.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Susan. Bye.
Bye.
Hey there, this is Ari Whitten with The Energy Blueprint. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I assume you did, otherwise you probably wouldn't have stuck around this long. So in that case, I want to make sure that you go over to theenergyblueprint.com and enter your name and email address so that you're on our email list and you get all the latest and greatest information as we release it. Theenergyblueprint.com is the #1 source for information on the science of overcoming fatigue and enhancing your energy levels. So make sure you head on over to theenergyblueprint.com, enter your name and email address, or just your email address, and sign up for our email newsletter where you'll get all the latest information, all the latest podcasts, all the latest articles and videos as we release them on the subject of increasing your energy levels. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.